Welcome to the ABOP podcast. ABOP is the Alliance of Black Orchestral Percussionists, a nonprofit organization that focuses on mentoring future generations of Black percussionists. My name is Raynor Carroll. I am an ABOP founder and the former Principal Percussionist with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Thank you for joining me on this podcast, Black Female Percussionists. My guests for this episode include Alexa Clawson, master's student at the University of California, Los Angeles; Ashlee Dudley, Principal Percussion, Durham Symphony Orchestra; Marcia McCants, Adjunct Professor of Percussion, Virginia State University; and Donielle Woodard, Sophomore at Southern Methodist University. And I am proud to say that Alexa, Ashlee, and Donielle are proteges in ABOP's mentorship program. Ladies, welcome to the ABOP podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you for participating in this discussion, Black Female Percussionists. Since our listeners can't see my guests, I'd like to mention that all of them are Black female percussionists. Before we begin, let me provide some background information. As a co-founder of the Alliance of Black Orchestral Percussionists, our mission has always been to create a platform for Black percussionists to share experiences, learn from each other, and most importantly, to nurture the next generation of Black percussionists through our mentorship program. The founder's intention, and I believe it remains so, is that this alliance will not only foster a sense of community among us, but also pave the way for increased diversity on stage in America's symphony orchestras. Currently, our representation is only about 2% among all the instruments in the orchestra. If we break down that number further, we find that the number of Black female percussionists currently members of American orchestras is closer to 0%. That's extremely low. Having been a member of the Los Angeles Philharmonic for 33 years and holding a principal leadership position, I can personally attest to the challenges I faced as a Black man in a field that has traditionally been dominated by white males. However, I cannot fully share the experiences of Black women who are either studying or performing as percussionists in symphonic music. So ladies, it will be great to hear your perspectives as we discuss some of the issues you've encountered as students and professional percussionists. First, let's get to know a little bit about each of you. Alexa, how'd you get started in percussion?
I got started in percussion around 5th grade. I just gotten off of a few years of lessons for piano, and in 5th grade, that was when everyone decided what instrument they wanted to play. So I was lucky enough to be one of the few 5th graders who could initially start on percussion, because normally you had to wait until 6th grade for that. But yeah, I started in 5th grade, and I've kept doing it ever since then. I've done some youth symphonies, some youth wind symphonies, and a youth orchestra outside of that during high school, and I've just stuck around with it.
Marcia?
I actually got started doing percussion in 6th grade because local high school brought their marching bands around, and when the drum line came out, I was like, oh man, that's like super cool. And then I ended up signing up to do percussion, and I've been doing it now ever since. So doing percussion ensemble, did marching band all through high school, all through college, and I'm still performing now. Yeah.
Donielle?
I got started in percussion in 6th grade, coming out of piano for the past 8 years. And it was a choice between band and orchestra, so I chose band and I chose percussion. And since then I was doing competitions, all-state, regional band, and now I'm studying in college.
And Ashlee?
I got started with percussion in the 7th grade. I actually played viola in 5th and 6th grade. I was terrible, but there were about 3 counties in North Carolina that had orchestras. So my parents split up and we moved out to the middle of nowhere in North Carolina, and there were no orchestra programs. So band class sounded better than art class, and I tried flute first and had an asthma attack. So sticks were easier to carry anyway, and my mom was a drummer in high school. So that was kind of where the start happened, and I just never put them down.
Well, that's the next thing I'll ask, because you mentioned your mom was a drummer. So, Marcia, parental support. When you decided that you're going to do drums, what was the reaction?
The reaction was actually really good because my older brother actually started out doing drums before I did. So we already kind of had the resources available, and they were just completely 100% supportive, which I know that doesn't always happen. So I think I was very lucky in that regard.
So all my life, I was like, oh, I'm going to do medicine. I'm going to do biology. And so since like from the age of like 8, I would be put in science camps, UT Southwestern, every summer, every year. And so the fact that my mom was a planner, she was like, okay, so you're doing these science camps. He's going to look good on your resume. You're going to get into a good college. You're going to study biochemistry. So when I chose percussion and I continued to do it, I was like, I don't think I want to go into science anymore. And she was like, okay, what do you plan on doing with that? And I was like, I don't know, but I feel like I was brought here for a purpose. So I'm just going to run with it and see what happens. And so she was very supportive. And yeah, I'm studying science right now. I'm studying percussion. So.
And here you are. So Ashlee, it sounds like because your mom was a drummer, no problems, no issues with getting support there?
Actually went a little crazy and bought everything she could think of for little 7th grade me to beat on at home. And so I had a sparkly, glittery pink snare drum to play on, which I still have in a closet upstairs right now. I haven't touched since 7th grade. But she bought all kinds of things for me to use for the band class, where I essentially got relegated to bells, which is why I never used the pink sparkly snare drum anywhere.
So did it perhaps have the opposite effect where you felt obligated to continue because you saw her enthusiasm in what you were doing?
A little bit. I was a little more STEM focused through the later part of middle school into high school. So I really wanted to eventually go be a mathematician for NASA or something, big dreams or whatever. And there was a little bit of pressure to stay in percussion. I wanted to quit marching band because I did not have a good time being outside in the sun for hours on end. And my mom was the marching band tech, so she insisted that I stay. And I found myself at some point not being able to let go of doing music, like even looking for a STEM-focused college. I was like, okay, and where can I minor in music? And, I didn't know anything. I was like, these schools don't have good music programs. I'm sure they were wonderful. But at the time, I was like, no, I think I need to go to music school. So there was a little pressure, but I think it kind of worked out in my favor. So
yeah. Did anybody have, let's say, negative effects from your peers, as in your guys that are playing with you? As in, we started elementary, junior high school, and, kids are kids, boys are young boys, and, you're probably the minority. I'm sure there weren't 3, 4, 5 other young ladies starting on percussion too. So anybody get poked around by the other boys that were in beginning band with you or anything like that?
Yes. It was a lot, but interestingly in 6th grade, it was mostly girls. But then once I got to 7th grade, I got put into the top 7th grade band. And so I was the obviously only black girl there, but also the only black person in the percussion section, which was to me a bit of like a what in the world. And so my band had this weird thing called like chair challenges, where after you would take like, tests, I think like every quarter to do like play this scale and sight read, whatever. If you didn't like your chair placement, you can challenge someone above you. And because I was constantly like always put maybe like 3rd or 2nd chair, I was always getting challenged, not just by the guys, but like some of the other girls as well. And it was just always just kind of embarrassing because I didn't know I had like really bad anxiety, because you have to play the chair challenge in front of the entire band class, which is a sadistic policy in my opinion. And so I would get nervous, and then like I would like mess up something. And so then like, I would end up like losing my chair. But then at the end of the day, like if I got challenged again, I would just be like, just take my spot. Like I'm like, I don't want any trouble. Just take my spot. And then I would always get relegated to playing like, oh, there's this extra like tambourine part you can do, or whatever, like low level auxiliary part to do, like never really having the chance to play like, oh, I want to try this timpani part, or I want to try this keyboard part. Like it had gotten to the point where my band director would have to make sure that I would get certain parts. Like, he would have to be like, Marcia is playing timpani on this piece because we need her to play timpani because she is good at it. Or being like, she has to play snare drum on this piece because she's good at it. Like, because he noticed I was always getting the one shaker and triangle part. So dealing with a lot of that all the way like through high school and like even some in college. But college was very different because it was like overly competitive because everyone was like trying so hard to be the best. But it was harder because, you know, everyone's like, oh, I don't remember seeing you at like all state auditions, or I don't remember seeing you doing, you know, like all these like music band camps everyone did. And so there was like, well, how good are you? Like, what are you good at? So I just constantly had that, like, and honestly, I still do kind of get it now, but definitely not as bad when I was as when I was younger, but it's still just there all the time.
I mainly noticed it in high school, especially when, so the way that my high school did it, we had 5 bands and symphonic band and wind ensemble.
Whoa. What state is this?
I was thinking that too.
Ohio?
It's not Texas? Oh my gosh. 5 bands?
Yeah, so the way that our high school was structured, so every 3 years, our marching band would go on a trip overseas, and every time there was a trip year, the band grew in size. So since it's like, okay, since you're doing marching band, you have to do band for the rest of the year. So then that's how we got split into 5 bands.
Wow.
So so I was always in wind ensemble my 4 years of high school, and I do remember there was one time when I was kind of distinguished as principal for the ensemble, and I had kind of gone through, I was like, all right, I'm just going to divvy up these parts. And I know that, like, okay, some people need to play mallets because all these guys don't want to play mallets and they just want to hit drums, but I need to make them do it. And so, like, I would tell them, it's like, okay, yeah, you're going to be playing mallets on this. And then they would basically just completely shut down and just wouldn't do it because I said that, like, this is what you're playing and you need to play it.
Right.
And so I felt like it was, I mean, I guess at the time I just got really angry and upset because I'm like, why you guys just ignore me? But when our other guy tells you what to do, you guys are like, oh, great, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
So that was always hard in high school. But when I got to my undergrad, that's kind of when everything changed, and I saw like this great light in the world of percussion. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more women. Oh my gosh, there's more people of color here. And the way that it was all structured was that our professors basically designated who would be principal. And when they did that, like, we all just agreed and we all worked with each other in harmony and everything worked out fine. But I think definitely just going back to an age where you're growing up and still trying to figure out what you're trying to do. And there's all these like guys all into sports and they're all trying to be like manly and stuff.
Right.
Not trying to work with other people. It just made it very hard and very annoying.
Yeah. It's what I say these days, what you were trying to do with the guys in the band is like, give them their weakness. Otherwise, they'll always be great, whatever, at whether it's snare drum or timpani, but they won't be good at mallets because they're never pushed that way. And I give you a fist bump, not a punch, as to at an early age, you know, you were like, come on, this is something you need to do. You need to be well-rounded. So you never get upset at me when I tell you to work on your right hand because you're left-handed, right?
No.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Ashlee or Donielle?
Yeah, I mean, I had, I think, a pretty consistently negative experience all through, I mean, even through now with a lot of men in the field, boys in middle school would, oh, you're a girl and bells are for girls, mallets are for girls, you have no business playing snare drum, bass drum, whatever. And it didn't matter where, like, we would have our playing tests, and even if I scored the highest consistently in the playing test, it didn't really matter. I was always relegated to bells, and the band director was pretty happy to oblige that with the boys in the class. And then through high school, that sort of continued. I did have some times where I was able to kick, scream, and fight my way onto a snare drum, but most of the time, you know, If the timpani needed to be tuned, Ashlee, go tune the timpani for them. Ashlee, go show them how to play the bass drum. Ashlee,
Right.
go show them how to tune a snare drum, and then go back to your bells. And so that's kind of where that was for most of high school.
Yeah.
And then getting into college, I was at a small university where we were the only black people in the building. The professor, myself, and my brother were the only percussionists. We were also the only black people. But there were some like racial and gender related, I guess, negativity, negative comments made all throughout my undergraduate experience where, you know, we were told that we should be put in cages and, there's in a little bit wild. And then a lot of like, oh, you're pretty good at that for a girl, or, you know, women have no business doing this. And then I went to get my master's, and that, you know, the experience that Alexa had with, you know, the boys in school refusing to listen to anything you had to say was the experience that I had as the grad student there. Being put on top of all of the ensembles and in charge of running rehearsals, like, it was a pretty constant, like, we're not going to listen to you, to the extent of being called names because I'm giving direction. And I don't think I was being rude or anything about it. I might have been. I don't know. But I feel like the name calling was maybe a little bit excessive. And it didn't happen to any of the men. It did happen to all of the women there. So at least I wasn't alone in that. But it didn't happen to any of the men that were put in charge of leading anything. So
Yeah.
kind of a fun thing.
Well, let me start with you. How did you cope? You know, that's a lot. That constant negativity, the constant, no, you don't deserve to be, you shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be listening to you. And it's based on that you're a woman, let alone a black woman. So how did you make it this far? How did you persist?
There was, I tried to quit once. Because it just all got to be a little too much. And I think there was just kind of a point of like, I don't like where my life is when I'm not doing this. So I have to find a way to get over it. I have to find a way to carve my space out and take ownership of it. I have to find a way to trust in what I'm doing and know that what I'm doing is right, regardless of whatever negative feedback I'm getting from the people standing around me. If it's not coming from the podium, I have to learn to tune it out. If it's not coming from my teacher, I have to learn to tune it out. So it is still a thing that I deal with, you know, professionally. Most recently, I think I played second percussion to a 10th grader that hadn't been in band class in 3 years because he was a man. And that's it. Because there's another percussionist that plays with this group that is a girl, and she is always relegated to second. I was hired on as the lead percussionist, and when I showed up, they had changed out the percussion lineup to just the two of us and a guy that wasn't originally on it. And all of a sudden, I'm playing second percussion, which is fine. I mean, it was the easiest $200 I ever made. You know, standing around in the back, like playing tambourine and a couple bell notes, like whatever. But it was an interesting, like, okay, I'm getting bumped from lead percussion because we have an interesting prejudice about who should be in charge of that, which is, it is a thing.
Yeah.
It's not a great thing.
Donielle?
Yeah, I think I received more like comments and assumptions in marching band than I have in concert band, since I do carry the quads. I've been playing it since the 7th grade. It'll just be times where I'm not even playing the drum. I'll just be walking around and people will go, like the comments will go from, oh girl, you better play them drums, to those are too heavy for you, or like they'll walk up to me and be like, are you sure you can carry that? Stuff like that. I remember going to my professor and talking about my experience in the marching band, and I told him what I played, and he looked at me and he squinted his eyes and he was like, really? Are you sure? Like, are you serious? You play that? As if he didn't believe what I was saying. I also went to a camp at Grambling State University, it's a HBCU in Louisiana. The whole drum line was guys. It was just guys. I walked in with my quad and just got stared down. We started playing cadences, and mind you, they don't read music. They just go by ear. And the professor, like the director, asked, who can read? Who can read? I raised my hand, and he was like, no, like just no. And We were learning cadences, mind you were doing by ear. And so the quad captain or whatever, he was playing. Right after he was done, I started playing because I have a pretty good memory. And he looked at me, he was like, no way you just got that. Like, what? I was like, well, yeah. It turned into a positive afterwards. They started pulling me to the side, like, oh, play this, play this. The director started pulling me to the side. They started recording me. It got to the point where random people were pulling up in cars on campus and being like, oh, that's that girl. Oh, that's her right there. And I'm looking at them like, oh, so y'all are just like talking about me in the group chats and stuff like that. So it turned into a better experience. I ended up getting one of their top awards for musician percussion. But in the beginning, it was just like a really, like, why are y'all acting like so?
I actually relate to that because I actually played quads when I was in high school as well. So, like, I got so much like, oh, well, can you really carry those? Or like, are you sure you can play that? It looks really heavy. Or getting like, well, I'm glad I play snare drum because my drum's lighter than yours. And like not having the right harness fit. Like I dealt with that because we had the really old like pearl harnesses. And I was trying to tell people that it was digging into my skin. And they're just like, oh, well, you're just complaining because you're a girl and this is new for you. And I was like, I have legitimate bruises on my thighs. I don't think I'm making this up. Then I had to show them the bruises, and they're like, oh, well, looks like, you know, the harness is made for a man's body and not really a woman's body. And then I think one of the worst comments I got was saying that with, like, kind of how the quads, like, sit kind of, like, on your hips a bit, I was told that I waddle like a pregnant lady when I march. And I was just like, what? Like, what is happening?
Can we talk about the, like, need to prove yourself, though? Like, that's kind of insane. Like, especially for Donielle, like, I'm glad it's turned to a complimentary thing, but why is it that we have to prove ourselves before we can receive the compliment? You can't just give the compliment the first time.
Yeah, because I also played quads in high school. And it was like, I was also just the shortest person on the drum line, and so I was always kind of like struggling to keep up with everyone. But I guess like most of my friends, like they never, well, I guess not really friends, but just like most people, they never say anything negative about it. I guess I was mainly telling myself negative things because I was always like just worrying about like, oh, I can't keep up, and I'm just afraid I'm gonna like trip and fall on my face with these drums on. But it had been a really positive experience. There's still like one photographer who's been so nice to me. He would always send me pieces of mail, and he would always address me as like the quad queen because that's just what I played. But yeah.
So in your studies, did any of you have women as your instructor, whether it's a personal, private instructor or a band director? And if you did, I wonder if there was any difference in the way you were treated versus when, you know, a guy's up there.
You know, for me, it was in my last year in undergrad at James Madison, and I had a female private teacher, and then I had another one for like a little bit, but she was getting her DMA. But having a woman work through percussion things with me made me feel seen in a really different way, because like I just felt like they were like, she was able to explain things and kind of talk about moving along the instruments in a different way that like a man wouldn't totally understand, because, you know, like there are like, you know, physical differences between men and women, and just having a really like accommodate for that. And then just, I don't know, I think it was just easier. We were able to kind of be more kind of like on the same plane for a little bit. It didn't feel as kind of like overbearing in a sense, or like I have to prove myself, because like this is someone who to a certain degree like gets what I've been through. Yeah. So it was just easier to like communicate.
Did she happen to be black?
No, actually, but I wish, but no.
I mean, there would have been even possibly, not necessarily, but possibly even a different connection there had she been black, you know, and the band director, and yeah. obviously you felt the support. And I guess the understanding of what you were doing as a woman, coming from a woman. Yeah, yeah. Again, I want to ask, how were you able to focus and continue through the bad environment? And was there a particular person that was very much supportive through all of this? Or it came from you yourself, or your parents were setting the example for you and telling you you could do it? Where did it come from?
I think because I have been fortunate in some sense that all of the teachers that I've studied under directly have been Black. Those have been the people that have pushed me to kind of keep moving it forward through whatever I was dealing with. So they were sounding boards. They were always willing to listen to the problem. Sometimes, a little dismissive of the problem, particularly being like through undergrad, but grad school, they were always very receptive. Both of my teachers there were. So that was nice because I always had somebody that could relate to what I was experiencing on some level. I have built a sense in myself that I need to keep going. There is a motivation there that kind of transcends all the bad things going on in the moment because I need to keep doing this. I can't make myself stop doing it, so.
For me, I feel like I got most of my support in undergrad, not just from my parents, but also from just the people in my studio. That was really the first time I was surrounded by a bunch of people who wanted to do the exact same thing as me. And just having the constant support from my friends in percussion, my friends who weren't in percussion, but also in music, and then my friends who weren't even in music, and who were doing different things, along with just all my private professors and my theory professor. She had been very, very supportive of me during that year, those few years. And so that had really kept me going even when I had, I guess really my injury kind of developed more in my forearms during then. But even now, first year masters in a totally different place, I've kind of fallen back into I don't have much of a support system out here. And so then I've fallen back into the mindset of what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I even proceeding with how I want my career to go? Or with am I doing the right things that I need to do right now? So it's definitely been hard. And I think it's been harder for me because I am now not surrounded by a lot of people of color like I used to be in my undergrad year. And I'm in this whole new school where I've noticed the past few weeks that I've been the only person of color again now in my wind ensemble and Philharmonia, which has just kind of turned everything on its head from what I have been used to. And I'm back now into this place of, oh, great, now it's just me again.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can cope with it better now that you've been through it in the past.
I've tried to.
Yeah.
It's definitely still very hard right now. But yeah, it's a bit easier than it was in high school.
Let me point out a positive, because I think, we want to talk about that too. And I think your situation in undergrad was definitely a positive thing, which I think is unusual when you are with a group and you all have the same goal. There's can be an amount of competition. So the competition can get in the way and people they envy this and that and what you're doing. But you're saying that you guys were a cohesive group and you kind of supported each other. That's fantastic. Of course, we need more of that. But that's very unique. I think it's more the opposite, where it's very competitive, and not that everybody hates each other, but probably they don't work together as well because this person's playing timpani, I should be playing the timpani part or whatever. So I do want to highlight that's a great thing. And I'm sorry the current situation isn't like that, but maybe it's just going to take a little bit longer. And when you're doing your undergrad work, there were other Black percussionists there?
Yes, there were. So there was one who was a year above me. And then my sophomore year, we got a very nice young man and a Latina woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would ask you, ladies, in the groups you've played in, are you typically the only, or maybe there's one other Black, or What would you say is your typical experience in playing in ensembles?
Percussionist, often the only Black person in the room. Definitely usually the only Black woman if there is another Black person in the room.
Yeah, pretty same here, where it's like I'm typically like the only Black person probably in the whole ensemble, or I'm the only Black person in the percussion section. But then if there are more Black people in the percussion section, I'm typically the only Black woman there. So it's just typically just being the only one.
And how do you guys... I mean, I know how I do because I'm typically the only Black guy there, but so how do you cope with that?
Usually I'm kind of coming in being like, kind of like give myself a pep talk of like, okay, girl, you're probably going to be the only one. Just be like mentally prepared for that, because sometimes I have to be like, are they going to think that I'm not good enough to be here? They might think that. You don't know that. Are they gonna like try to make like really weird random comments to you? Because sometimes that does happen, sometimes it doesn't, but you have to kind of like prepare yourself for literally anything, and then be like, you might not get, the parts you want to play, because they'll just, have their prejudices and stereotypes in their head of like, oh, well, the weird thing of like only women play bells and then men do like all the drummy stuff, which is just a weird thing I never understood ever. Still don't. And then, just kind of like what kind of does help me a bit is being like, well, I was invited to play here, so obviously that means I'm pretty good. So I'm going to assume everyone else is about my level as well. If they're a little better than me, cool. If I'm a little better than them, also cool. Because, we're all invited to play in the same place. And it shouldn't be like a competition of who's better or who has the longer resume. But you never know in what kind of environment that can happen. So I'm always just prepared in case that happens. And then, in breaks, I kind of just... I'll try to like make friends with other people, but I try to just kind of like stick to myself for a bit until like, maybe someone else like breaches contract, and I'm like, okay, then, well, okay, we can talk now, because now that like being seen as like equals, it can be a little bit different. So just kind of going in, like preparing myself and having the confidence that it's like, I know I belong here because I got invited to be in this group. So obviously my skills are wanted and welcomed. So just knowing that, being like, yeah, I'm probably an anomaly to you, but to myself, I'm just being me.
I typically don't even notice it. I notice it, but I am not bothered by being the only Black person in the room until somebody else kind of starts it, I guess. When the microaggression begins, that's really when I start to feel it. My undergraduate professor made a really big point of not allowing myself to consider my gender or my race as a factor in whether or not I should be in the room and what other people might be thinking. To an extent, it was not necessarily positive. Like it was almost a very toxic way of ignoring that obvious information. But it has helped going into certain spaces to just not think about that first, not notice that I'm the only woman or the only Black person in the room unless somebody else makes a problem out of it. And when, especially in rooms that I'm going into knowing that other people are making a problem out of it, having a refusal to walk in timidly, I will not put my head down and look at my feet. I will not slump around and stick to myself in a corner and be scared of being in the room, even if I am shaking and terrified to be in the room. Like, just refusing to kind of give in to it, no matter what I guess the other people in the room are trying to do about it.
Do you ladies feel added performance pressure because you're out to prove that you're just as good, if not better, than your colleagues? Or do you feel like you cannot slip up?
So I feel like now I'm just now starting to appreciate who I am in this field. My freshman year was very bad because coming from a predominantly minority school and then coming to SMU, like I immediately felt scared and isolated. And it got to a point where at the concerts or in studio class, I wasn't even playing the music for like enjoyment or like my passion anymore. I was playing solely for the point of I need to prove myself to you. I can play a note. I can hold my mallets, because I felt like if I made a mistake, it would be magnified.
Right.
And compared to my peers, like it wouldn't be as magnified as if they made one. So I got very insecure in my identity. My confidence went at an all-time low. I felt like I couldn't read eighth notes anymore or play a C major scale anymore. I just felt very insecure. And I had no one to look up to. I had no role models. And yeah, I would be like, oh, you're a great musician, but you don't look like me, and I can't really put myself in your shoes. You can't put myself in my shoes. And then just me being me, like I do things differently than my studio mates in terms of practicing, preparing, performing. I talk differently. I have a different personality. I have different perspectives. It was kind of hard for me to feel secure in that. And the worst part of it for me was I was very behind in where I was supposed to be, because the rest of the studio and percussionists, I mean, they came in with years of formality experience. They came in with private lesson teachers that they've had since middle school. They're exposed to repertoire like Bach and Tompkins. I knew nothing about any of that. I learned four mallets literally last year as a freshman in college. I had my first private lesson teacher as a freshman in college. I didn't know any of the standard repertoire like a De La Cluse, or I didn't know any Bach, and I've never even heard of an excerpt before. And so that, and being the youngest performance major in my studio, along with being a Black woman, just added to my anxiety of imposter syndrome, and added to my insecurities, my lack of confidence, and it impacted the way I played, because my mental health was like declining under the pressure. So I feel like I'm just now bouncing back from that.
Well, again, I will bounce back and give you the positive. The fact is, you were there. So they saw something in you. They may not say it later. I don't know who the they is, whether it's your colleagues or the professors or whoever. But, you know, you didn't know Bach, you didn't know four mallets. But how did you get into school then? You know, well, that's what I want you to think about. You've got something, you know, we call it talent or whatever. You just haven't had that private instruction. It could be as simple as that. But they saw, okay, we get her in school, in the program, we'll fine tune all this because she has this thing that we're all after, and that's the skills there. So I see it as a big positive that you didn't come in like the others, and that's a good thing. That's okay, you know. Look at you now. I think myself as a musician first, a percussionist second. The issue, like you said, Ashlee, is that it's sometimes when others point out how you are different, where it then becomes, oh, okay, I just thought I was like you guys. I'm here to play music. The reality is that there will always be these, whether we call them microaggressions or envies or whatever, that people don't want you there because you're invading perhaps their safe space. Of course, we have every right to be there. As Donielle mentioned, that, you know, she didn't have this, that, and the other, but she had something. So therefore she has the right to be there just like they do. And the point is, at school, you're there to learn.
I kind of just conditioned myself and just got used to it.
Of course, that's something you shouldn't have to do.
Yeah.
But that's the reality of who we are.
Because it wasn't even with music. It was even just like middle school academics. And like, okay, I'm the only Black woman in this like advanced English class. Okay, I'm the only Black woman in our high school wind ensemble percussion section. Okay, I'm just used to it. Yeah. But I do get excited seeing others. Like if I just see him randomly, like, oh, yay. But yeah, I'm just so, I wouldn't say numb to it, because I still do realize it, but I think like just going into my day to day, I just know like, okay, it's just me. I'm just going to do what I got to do and then go on about my life.
Kind of like a forced development of comfort with yourself. Like, you know, we hear all the time about people like, oh, you need to learn how to love yourself, but like we really have been forced into a position where you have no choice but to be good with you because you're going to be by yourself. And It's unfortunate, but it's true.
And we are by ourselves every day, 365 days a year. It's something we deal with.
I hope not.
Well, no, it is. Do you change on a Thursday, or do you change race, or no? You're black. You're a woman. I don't think you're gonna. You could change being a percussionist, but one thing I have to tell you, ladies, is that, and this is not just me. I've talked to other male professors, and there's something you guys have in common, besides what we've talked about. You ladies are at a different pace than the guys playing percussion. As a professor, I have noticed that the women take in what we say and ask them to do more so than the men do. The progress is greater, the work effort is shown, whereas with the men, for some reason, and I think a lot of us have come to the conclusion it's maturity. And I'm like, well, they're 18, 19 in college. When are they going to mature? Well, the point is some of them never do mature. But anyway, my point is with women, we all notice, of course, there are exceptions, that you tend to come prepared to lessons. I'll just put it that way. Whereas with the guys, there can be this, that, or the other, and it's just different. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that, if you've done enough teaching at this point. It's a different thing for guys, and it's definitely a gender thing. We group the women together and say, overall, they do their assignments as opposed to the guys not. Are you aware of this? Marcia, have you in your teaching? Yeah?
Yeah, I've been teaching for a bit. I've done, high school marching band. I've done some college. And I know that when I've been working with, obviously a mixed group of men, of boys and girls, but the girls will take to more of what I say a lot faster than the guys will. And it'll be maybe like weeks down the line in the marching band season, and then they might have forgotten I said something, but then it's like I'll say it again, and then it'll eventually finally click. But I have had times working with high schoolers when I wouldn't be able to be there, but then there would be another someone else to come in, and the person was obviously a man, and things that I'd been saying for weeks, he tells them that one time and they're like, oh yeah, I'll fix that immediately. And I'm just like, I've been telling you this for weeks. And they just wouldn't do it. And then even being a professor for a little bit, I definitely do think my female students were more prepared for their lessons than with the men, because sometimes it was pulling teeth to get them to do what I asked them to do. It would be a simple hey, go over these 3 scales and then come back, or hey, go over this page of your snare solo and we'll look at it next time. But every time it was I had a female student, we got through everything, and we still had extra time in the lesson to do other things, and I'm like, great, we can progress a bit faster. Whereas with some of the guys, I had to do a lot of repeating things, almost every lesson I had to repeat what we had gone through in the previous lesson. And then by that point, half the lesson time's already gone because we spend it going over what they were supposed to do on their own. And then being all right, now we can get into what we're supposed to do. So it's actually really interesting to kind of see that comparison, and that it's happening more often, that women tend to absorb the information and the technique almost better, faster a little bit than the guys do.
Right. Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that in teaching. And I've taught, I think the youngest students I've taken have been 4 years old. Especially when I was teaching drum set for, a good stint in there. And it was definitely always the female students that would show up prepared, even if they were not the best at what they were doing. They tried, they practiced, They never questioned any of the assignments that we were doing, and there was progress every week. And then some of the boys, there was little to no progress for months at a time.
Yeah.
And we would get to a point where I'm giving you the same lesson every week, and they were more than happy to just sit there and get the same lesson every week for 6 or 7 weeks in a row. It's like, okay.
I wish I had something to defend the guys with, but I started this conversation. I just didn't know it started at 4 years old or maybe even earlier. Wow. Let me ask you, do you have strong mothers? Was your mother in particular influential in who you are today?
For better or for worse, yes.
Okay. Is that going to be it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Alexa.
Yes, of course. Yeah, she started my brother and I out on piano, which I'm grateful for. She did violin, choir, and piano when she was growing up. And so I think that her having that, I guess, putting her musical influence into me as a person has just helped me so much. And just having all of her support and love, even today. Like she just went back home after visiting me for 2 weeks, and just having her even being here with me has meant so much. Then like that, I don't even know if she knows that, but I've just been so grateful for her support. And then even just my dad and just my whole family, just all the support from everyone has helped me to be who I am as a person.
Donielle?
But yeah, my mom, as far as like her dedication and her consistency to her craft, I get that from her 100%. As far as like practice and score studying or whatever it is, it's just 100% like laser focused. Like I'm not 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm not half committing to anything. She said, if you're in this, then you're in this, and you have a purpose. God brought you here on purpose. And so I took that to heart. And I just keep my faith every day and practice as much as I can. And I get that solely from her.
Marcia?
Yeah, I definitely think I have a lot of influence from my mom because, you know, she actually played clarinet when she was in high school, and sometimes she still plays now. She also is a psychologist. That's what her PhD is in. And it's interesting that I ended up studying psychology of music myself. So ended up kind of having that whole connection. And my mom always made sure to come to every single one of my performances, even when I was like, you know, doing dance, choir, band, like everything. And she even supported me actually even in the 3rd grade when I tried to start the flute. And then that lasted maybe 3 weeks, and then I gave up because I didn't like it anymore. But she wanted me to keep trying it, but I was like, no, this is not for me. I can't whistle, so it's not going to work out. And she, as upset as she was that like she rented a flute for a whole year, she still supported my decision in 3rd grade to quit the flute after like a month. So like if she's going to stick with me through that, I was like, I know that she's going to still support me like in everything else that I do musically.
Add on, I feel like I will say that I think the influence can kind of goes both ways because as much as my mom influenced me to keep going with percussion, I've now somehow influenced her to start taking marimba lessons.
Wow. The big question is, how much you going to charge her?
Well, it's not from me, so I'm okay with that.
Well, wait a minute. You often hear of the mother or the father or whatever, the parent teaching the child, and they eventually realize this is not going to work. So why isn't it start with the child teaching the mom?
I think it's just because I'm over here in California. Okay. And they've got the marimba at home, so they could do whatever.
Oh, that's right. Your marimba is still in Ohio, so okay, very good. Wow. So we have a possible mom and daughter ABOP connection in the future?
Maybe.
Maybe. That'd be great. You correcting your mom. That's cool. I like that. So as we get closer to the end of our conversation, do you have any advice for younger generations of women pursuing percussion?
I would say, oh, a young lady. Well, in general, I would say cherish I cherish the negative and the positive experiences, because the positive reminds me why I'm here and the negative reminds me to keep moving forward. Just my presence alone, like, forget the music aspect. It feels like us as Black women are challenging barriers and just overcoming stereotypes placed amongst the majority. And just let alone in like your music and your performance, like, we're going to express ourselves differently. We're going to phrase differently. We're going to interpret differently. And that's what we have to love about ourselves. And yeah, like, people will see our faces, children will see our faces, and will gain hope. Because somewhere in the world, there's a Black girl who probably put her mallets down because she felt like she had no place or no business being a percussionist. And when she sees us, she will pick those mallets back up because she saw us. So I believe we're here on purpose. We're made Black on purpose. We're made women on purpose and placed in this field on purpose. And I believe we're forming something special.
Ashlee?
I would tell them, if you like it, you do it, and you don't listen to anybody else. I mean, take that with a grain of salt, obviously. Like, listen to some people, but don't let other people drive you to dislike what you're doing. And I think even more than to the young Black girl, I would find the parent and tell them that they really need to connect them with somebody that looks like them, because it makes a really big difference to see yourself represented in what you want, or even what you enjoy. If it's not what you want, your lived experiences drive where you're going and what you see your life being. And it's hard to picture yourself doing something that you don't see other people that look like you doing. So it's really important to connect with somebody that looks like you.
Alexa?
Keep on going with their dream and not let the outside world influence how they feel about themselves. There will always be negatives, but life's prettier than it seems at that point in time. And to just keep, like, surround yourself with a great support system, with your parents, your friends, and to just keep pushing yourself and not allow others to take that shining light inside of you away from you.
And Marcia?
I think my thing is, I would say, don't be afraid to be different. And just really making sure that they embrace that they're different. And it's like, you don't have to be like everybody else. You don't have to play like how everybody else plays. You don't have to look how everyone else looks. And just letting them know that their differences is what makes them a unique percussionist. Like, you being a black girl percussionist, like that's a great thing. It makes you different. It makes you helps you to stand out in different ways, because you're, in a sense, you're still kind of like a bit of an anomaly. And it's like, just embrace that, embrace who you are, and just embrace being different.
Bravo to all of you. One last thing, what can we do? What can we do to make a difference so that future generations don't have it quite the same as in the obstacles that you have faced, that I share, that I have faced? What can we do, whether it's individually or collectively?
Fight, because if you don't pick the fight, nothing changes. People keep their opinions, people keep their microaggressions, the envelope doesn't open, the needle doesn't move, nothing happens if you don't pick the fight. And it's scary and it sucks because it can be isolating, but pick the fight.
I feel like it also starts, like, you know, because we all mentioned how we got started in percussion like 5th through like 7th grade. I think it starts like then, when we're getting interested in the instrument, to be like, hey, here are some other black female percussionists that you can potentially want to look up to, and here are these like connections already. So I think it starts like in the band room, in these band classrooms, like early on, to be, and not just be like, hey, here's like, you know, every like male percussionist that everyone's ever known. But it's also like, if you see that in your percussion class or like in your general band class that you have students of color, and even just like specifically, you know, Black girls, like as the teacher should be trying to look for resources and look for other percussionists that are similar. So then it's like, hey, they have someone that they can look up to. So I think it starts like, you know, when we're first introducing students to the instrument.
I think one of the things we can do is just stay here, not quit. Don't drop your career, drop your passion just because you're different, just because you're Black, just because you're a female. Staying here really makes an impact. It challenges the obstacles, and that's the first thing we can do. And if we see a young Black girl interested in the drums or interested in orchestral percussion, we try to nourish that. We try to be that person to connect them to these resources, to connect them to somebody who looks like them. And even if they don't end up continue pursuing it, at the end of the day, they can say, oh yeah, I had teachers, I had resources, I had equipment to where I could have pursued it. I just didn't choose to, and that's perfectly fine. But at least they can say they had that.
Helping these girls like have open doors and having people there who are willing to fight for them and push them through to be like, yeah, you are going to be great. And just like starting with private lessons early and just understanding that there will be some like hard times, but if we just continue to help push really anybody through with what they want to do, then that's the best thing.
Excellent. Do any of you know the name Elaine Jones? Marcia, yes. Alexa, Donielle, and Ashlee, perhaps? Well, she has a great book, autobiography. She's passed away, unfortunately, but just briefly. She grew up in Harlem. She attended Juilliard. She was the first African-American woman to perform with the New York Phil. Wasn't a member, but to perform with the Phil. And she performed under many famous conductors, Leopold Stokowski, Seiji Ozawa, Bernstein, etc. And she joined the San Francisco Symphony in 1972. She was the first Black principal player, woman, in a major American orchestra. But she was subsequently denied tenures 2 years later by a 7-man committee of orchestra members, which led to a legal battle over racial and sexual discrimination. And the judge ordered a revote, and she was denied tenure with the reason given as intonation. But she went on to become the timpanist of the San Francisco Opera and performed, I believe, until 1998, so a long career there. 2019, of more recent, she was the 4th female percussionist inducted into the PAS Hall of Fame. Of course, you know that means a lot. And I am proud to say that Elaine became an honorary member of ABOP back in 2021. And then she passed away in 2022. So I bring her up because her life is a powerful story of, I would say, determination and persistence way before us. I highly recommend reading her autobiography. It's called Little Lady with a Big Drum. And of course, it's available on Amazon. But she is someone you should know about because she set the foundation. She's so-called, I would say she's the Jackie Robinson of what we do. She was the first and had to go through, I would say, hell. And she provided a pathway for us. So that's someone I think deserves that acknowledgement there. So, ladies, Ashlee, Alexa, Donielle, and Marcia, thank you so much for sharing with our listeners. I believe it's crucial for us, Black women and men, to share our experiences, to raise the awareness about our issues, and hopefully come up with some solutions. So again, thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
That concludes this episode, Black Female Percussionists. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. Please consider donating to this nonprofit, ABOP. Your contributions are tax deductible and any amount is welcome. Please check out our website at www.abop.us for information on how you can contribute. We would love to add you to our list of supporters and sponsors of our mentorship program. This growing list includes the Smithsonian Folklife Festival, the Ella Fitzgerald Charitable Foundation, Black Swamp Percussion, Cooperman, Freer Percussion, Innovative Percussion, InSound Mallets, Majestic Percussion, Marimba One, Malatech, Remo, Sabian, Vic Firth, and Zildjian. Please follow our podcast and spread the word about ABOP. We greatly appreciate your support. I am Raynor Carroll, and we are the Alliance of Black Orchestral Percussionists, ABOP. Thank you for listening.